You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-Mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-Mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Today is Thursday, 2nd day of June 2022. Thanks so much for joining us, whoever you are, wherever you are. We're just glad to have you right here or right now. We do 2 live broadcasts each and every day. The first live broadcast is from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That live broadcast is our live training room, and that is reserved for members only and those taking their 1-week free trial. The afternoon broadcast, which begins at 12 noon Eastern, the one you're watching now, either live in real time or after the fact, it's open to the public, the whole wide world, anyone with an internet-connected device. Now, this afternoon broadcast, there's 2 ways to join the show. The best way is to go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. The way it works is you receive an email right before the show starts, and all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you in. Now, the reason that's the best way to join the show, not the only way, but the best way, is that way gives you access to the question box so that you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. But on the days that you're out of the office, away from the desktop, on vacation, and you still want to join the show live, all you need is an internet-connected device, PC, Mac, phone, tablet, maybe even a watch, and point the browser to youtube.com/CFRN. Very easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we broadcast live every afternoon on our YouTube channel, we also archive each and every daily show. And currently, there are over 2,000 daily live broadcasts archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And as of about a month ago, Spotify started archiving our afternoon broadcast. So there's a month's worth of archives there, but for the full Monty, go to youtube.com/CFRN. Anytime you miss the daily show, or if you're new and you want to see what we were doing a week ago, 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, I encourage you to do that, because you're going to find, no matter how far you go back, we're still doing the same thing. If it's not broke, don't try to fix it. Let's open with a word of prayer, as we do each day. Let me ask you a question first. Have you ever been angry? And nobody raised their hand. I don't want you to raise your hand. We've all been angry. Ezekiel 11:19 addresses that issue. I will take away their stony, stubborn heart and give them a tender, responsive heart. Anger. It's an easy subject to discuss because we've all been there. I'm generally a pretty laid-back kind of guy, so I don't get angry very often, or I try not to. I prefer to say that I'm irritated or agitated, something a little more southern. But my friends who know me well will call me on it. Sometimes I'm just flat out mad. Jonah was a man who knew something about being angry. He ran from God in disobedience. But the Lord saved him out of the belly of a whale and gave him a second chance. He took that chance and went to tell the people of Nineveh that their sins were going to bring the wrath of God. They listened, repented, and God changed his mind and did not carry out the destruction he had threatened. That's Jonah 3:10. But instead of being thankful for the lives that were saved, Jonah was angry. He was mad. He wanted judgment brought on others, in spite of the fact that he was just saved. The Lord replied in Jonah 4:4, "Is it right for you to be angry about this?" Jonah wanted mercy and grace for himself, but was unwilling to give it to others. It has to go both ways. Here are 3 things to consider the next time we get angry. Number 1, we need to self-reflect. 2 Corinthians 13:5 says we need to examine ourselves. That's not a fun thing to hear or to do, but it is necessary, Paul said. In 1 Timothy 1:15, Paul wrote, "This is a trustworthy saying, and everyone should accept it. Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners, and I am the worst of them all." Those are Paul's words. When we see our own depravity, when we take ownership of our own mistakes, we can truly realize the depth of our own sin and humble ourselves. We can give mercy and show grace to others the way Jesus does for us. Number 2, we need to consider the other person's circumstances. People say things and do things without thinking sometimes because they are blinded by their current situation and circumstance. Take time to see things from the other person's perspective. Put your feet in their shoes and put their needs above your own. It's much easier said than done, I know from experience, but it is something we can all aspire to. Philippians 2:3 says, "Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves." And number 3, we need to decide what we're going to do with our anger. Anger in itself is not a bad thing. There are times that we're going to experience righteous anger. Jesus did in Matthew 21. God does too. It's what we do with it that is concerning. We basically have 2 choices. We can let it take control of our hearts and lead us into captivity, or we can find freedom through forgiveness. That's pretty much it. There's a visual I use to think about. Freedom, forgiveness, prayers for the Lord's strength and peace, realization of my own depravity, anger, irritation, hurtful event, leads to anger, leads to resentment, leads to bitterness, leads to unforgiveness. Many times, anger starts with a minor irritation that makes us mad, but sometimes it's a serious offense that leads to anger. Either way, the question is, which direction are you going to allow your anger to take you. And it is a conscious decision. The enemy would like nothing more than for you to be eaten up with resentment, bitterness, unforgiveness, until you find yourself in a place you can't escape. A wise friend once told me that Satan drives us and the Lord guides us. Choose the one you want leading you. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I pray today that you take my stony, stubborn heart and turn it into a tender, responsive heart that seeks you and your will above all else. Forgive me for any bitterness I harbor in my heart, and help me to find release and peace in you alone. I thank you for your grace, your mercy, and the work that you're doing in my life and in all of the lives of the CFRN family. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And everybody said amen. All right, let me give you the numbers from around the world. I'm going to start here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. The Dow up 62 points. The NASDAQ up 150, make that 160 points, which is over 1.25%. The S&P 500 up 26 points. And the Russell 2000, our man in the street, up 27 points. And for the Russell, that's a gain of a little over 1.5%. In the commodity basket, crude oil up $1.51, trading 116.77 last. It's a gain of over 1.25%. Gold up $23, trading 1871.70 last. That's a gain of 1.25%. Silver up 36 cents, trading 22.28 last. That's a gain of over 1.5%. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei dropped 44 points, the Shanghai rose 13, the Hang Seng fell 212, which for the Hang Seng, that is a drop of 1%. And in the European markets at the close, the FTSE fell 74 points, the DAX rose 144 points, which is a little over 1%. The CAC rose 81 points, which for the CAC is a gain of 1.25%. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a mixed day in the UK. Now so far, things have changed throughout the session, and you'll see that as we get into the charts a little later in the show. But right now, it is a big green Radio Thursday here in the US of A. And Thursday means members workshop tonight, members only, 9 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing them every Thursday night since, I think, 2008. But you do have to be a member to join in. So if you've taken your free trial, but you've not yet become a member of the CFRN family, if you've not yet become a passport holder, if you've not yet hired us to teach you how to trade, go right here to eminifuturestrading.com. That's where you get your passport, which never expires. It's a lifetime membership. That means you have the live training room every day for life. You have unlimited one-on-one mentoring for life. The methodology we teach you, the indicators we provide, they work just as well with futures as they do with stocks, crypto, forex, options. And when you hire us to teach you how to trade for life, you'll receive the Logic 247 alerts around the clock, concierge trade alerts. Truly, the passport is everything a trader needs. all under one roof with one low price. And that includes 24/7 support via our numerous Telegram discussion group channels. We've got a lot of Telegram channels, but if you have a question and it's 2 a.m., because we have traders around the world, there's almost always somebody trading around the clock. And so if you find yourself up at 2 a.m., you can't sleep, 3 a.m. is when the London market opens, 9:30 a.m. is when Wall Street opens. If you have a question, put it in the discussion group, okay? Chances are there's somebody there who will be able to help you. Now, because I spoke about the one-on-one mentoring, I want to send a special apology to one of our members who, for some reason, the last two sessions he booked did not pop up on my calendar. So please forgive me. I now have a backup method to know when I have a mentoring session, and I assure you I will be, God willing, at our meeting that is scheduled for today. So Michael, I can hear that you've arrived. If
Yes.
you're ready, you can take it over. And
Okay.
when you're done, I'll be back and we'll go over the Logic 247 alerts, the concierge trade alerts, and at any point during the broadcast, if you have a question, just put it in the question box and we'll be happy to answer it for you. It's all yours.
Indeed. All right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, the 2nd day of June, 2022. Now, if you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to, simply go here to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, all that we ask for is your first name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us to speak a trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click that link, we don't know that you took the free trial. All right, so we didn't exactly have a banner day today. We did get our goal early on. We missed a few trades. We ended up having 2 stop outs right at the end. So we ended up, well, lower than we normally are. We still got, we still did all right. But anyway, I'll get into the detail here in just a minute. Today, as I said, is the 2nd day of May, 2022. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today, we made 20 ticks in crude. We lost 4 in gold, and we made 11 on the ES. Put us at 297.50 on the morning session. Today, it took 2 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $200 a contract, and we took a total of 18 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're up $1,250. That's we're 2 trading days, averaging $625 per contract per 2-hour trading day. We've now gone 166 days. 166 days since our last negative day. Those are business days, and we've gotten our goal for the day every business day so far this year, 105 of them, putting us at $113,348 on the year, averaging $1,079 per contract per 2-hour business day on the year. Today, if you were to quit trading when you got your goal for the day and you were to add 1 contract a month, you would now be trading 6 contracts, and you would have only had to work 14.91 hours so far this year if you were to quit trading when you got your goal for the day. You would have worked 14.91 hours, and you would have averaged $3,000 per hour for those 14.91 hours. Right? Exactly $3,000 per hour. That's kind of cool that it came up to that number. Like last year, we ended the year at exactly $146,000. It's strange it comes up to even numbers like that. But nevertheless, let's get into the trades. Now, we didn't have a ton of them, and there were not a ton of highest probability trades this morning either. Okay, so we'll just get into what we did do. Right here was a short on gold. Our first short was right there. We picked up 4 ticks on that. This was our moment in time. I was thinking it was going to go down and then go back up. These were the parameters that it was working within, and this very bar where the line is where time was at the is where we had stopped it. That very bar right there. That's what I'm going to do from now on. When I do a moment in time, I'm going to leave this vertical bar right on the last bar when I did it. So what I was thinking is it was going to go down and then go back up, and you can see it did all of that. And I don't know what happened here with all these lines, but it did happen down here too. I don't know how or why that happened, but Anyway, there were, by the time we finished our moment in time, there was another trade right here. This was not the highest probability trade, but this is pretty darn close. The only thing not given it was the MA1 right there. It was the wrong color. But we picked up 8 ticks there, and then we gave it right back there. So we went to plus 12 and back down to plus 4. Then we stopped out way over here, and this is where we went negative on gold. We went to minus 4 right there. And that was all we had for gold. During the break, I doubt there were no highest probability trade setups during the break. Crude oil, we had some pretty good trades on crude, and crude was doing a pretty good job of getting to the numbers that we were seeing, at least early on. Now we started out right here. We missed a trade right here on crude. That would have been the goal for the day. We missed a trade right here on crude. That would also have been the goal for the day. Where did we get a trade? It looks like we missed another trade over here and another trade right there. And a bounce off the BBC right there. Okay, so right here we ended up with a break even, and this one over here we picked up 12 ticks. I believe that might have been where we got the goal for the day, because we were already, no, it wasn't. The ES is where we got the goal for the day. But we picked up 12 ticks there. Okay, and then the next one we picked up 3 more to get us to 15. We had a break even trade in there. Missed one there. This one I made a mistake. I shouldn't have been in this trade. I should have taken the order off, and I lost 1 tick on that one. So that brought us from 15 to 14. Picked up 4 ticks there to get us to 18. Then a couple more to get us to 20. And, it's like I forgot to add this one in. All right, so we did do better than I thought I did. Because right there we went to 20, and this one, I believe I picked up, trying to remember if I got 4 or 6 ticks on this. And then this was our moment in time right here. I did get something on that. I'm trying to remember what I got. The down close was right there, but I didn't enter on the down close. I entered a little bit below it. I think I entered 4 ticks is what I got on that. Okay, because it went all the way down there. I entered it 26 is what I got the entry at, and I think I got out. It might have been 6 ticks. I got out at 20. I can go and look. But anyway, this was our moment in time, and what I thought at the moment in time was it's going to go down and then it's going to go up. I thought it was going to get choppy in here. I wasn't really sure what it was going to do. I thought this whole area right here was going to turn into some chop. And it did turn into a little bit of chop. It did end up giving us a long trade and a short trade. The short trade was right here. Okay. And the long trade was right back over. It wasn't actually a long trade, was it? Okay, well then it moved on. We had a break even there, a break even there. And there were some good trades that triggered right through here. I think I'd gone for a quick walk when that happened, and I came back and I saw that we had had some nice trades, and then it was something that happened while I was showing something else at one point. This one here, I ended up with a break even. Can you believe that? Went all the way up there and came back down. I got a break even on it. Right here, all these trades triggered while I was showing something on bonds, I think. And that was it for the crude. So we ended with plus 20. We actually ended with plus 26. And during the break, just highest probability trades, there was one right here. Is that one? Yeah, one right here. One right here. That would have been break even. That would have been profitable. The first one would have been break even. And that's it. There's another one just about to set up here. Okay. So that was crude oil. Now the ES. Let's see. Let's go back here on the ES. See, we stopped out on that last one on the ES. Yeah, the ES we stopped out on at the end, and gold we stopped out on at the end. Hold on. Go all the way back. All right, this is where we got our first trade on the ES. Well, we had a break even on the very first one, and then we picked up 20 ticks on this, I think, right? No, 12 ticks on this. So how did I had 12 ticks on this. I don't remember. But anyway, we picked up 12 ticks on this. I actually think we got 16 ticks. We did get 16 ticks. All right, that's what it is right there. Okay, we got 16 ticks on this. I was looking at the wrong one. We got 16 ticks on that, and then we had a break even. And then the next trade, wherever it was. Hold on. This is all in the first half hour. This went all the way down here and came back up for another break even. This was the moment in time here. Now, what I was looking at on this was a short, and I thought it was going to go up to this level and then move down. It went up just a little bit, but this is exactly where the bar was. So it went down to begin with, and then it came back up, and it looks like it didn't actually give a second trade. It only gave the one trade right there. And then it eventually moved up. This is the level I thought it was going to move up to, and it eventually moved up to that level right over there just a few minutes later. And all through here, there were a couple of trades in there, and then it turned around and went down. There were a couple of trades through there. We had from 16 to 18 to 19. We had one tick right there. Missed all three of those trades right there. One of those was highest probability right there. This was also highest probability right there. Then we went from 19. Well, that last trade that we took was a stop out. So we went from 19 down to 11. Looks like I didn't count that one right there. And right here we stopped out, went back down to 11. And then we get into the break. During the break, just the highest probability trades. So it was 1 right there. Is that one? No. No. Is that an up close or a down close? That's an up close. That was 1 right there. That would have been a break even. And that was it on the ES. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. Now on the crude, we ended up with 26 ticks. Okay, and that would mean this is a 19. Okay, not much changes there. But if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today's the second day of June 2022. 26 ticks in crude, -4 in gold, +11 on the ES. 357.5 on the morning session. Took 2 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $200 a contract. Both those trades were ES trades. I took a total of 19 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're at $1,310 a contract over 2 days, averaging $655 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Still, these numbers are the same. 166 days since our last negative day. Those are business days, and 105 days so far this year, getting our goal for the day. So we've got our goal every day so far this year. Let me hit the question box over here and see. Nope, no questions. Okay, so on the year, we're at 113,408. That is for one contract, averaging $1,080 per contract per 2-hour business day. If you were to quit when you got your goal for the day and you were to add one contract per month, so far this year, we would have only had to work 14.91 hours, average $3,000 per hour. Okay, that's not per contract, that's per hour. All right. All right, so let's go back in here now. If you've not taken a free trial, go here to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, all we ask for is your first name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us the biggest training challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click the link, we don't know that you took the free trial, so make sure you click on that link. All right? All right, that's it, guys. With that, I can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, and Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
Switches. Turn some gears.
Okay. Sometimes you gotta get that crank in front of the car. Roll it around a few times. Get that engine rotating. There you go. There you go.
Now we're cooking. All right, so recap of the recap.
Today, it took 2 minutes and 2 trades to get to $200 a contract.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Okay, that's what happened the first 2 hours since the Wall Street opened today, from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And again, when you hire us to teach you how to trade, it is a lifetime membership, which means you'll have access to the live training room as long as you need it, and then even after you don't need it, it's still a good place to go and kind of hang out. Michael says we just lost my audio. Okay. Alright, did the audio come back? Still no audio. Well, let's see. Test. Okay, it shows on my end that I'm broadcasting. Somebody in the chat box, tell me if you can hear me. Okay, the guys in. Oh, I got a yes, and then I got a no. So, Michael R., you cannot hear me. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to log out of GoToWebinar. Okay. So let's do this. I will log out and come on, and log back in, and we'll see if that fixes it.
Other thing that I had going on after my appointment.
Can you hear me now?
The VA today. Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
All right.
Okay, I took the charts back though.
Yeah, no,
so
that's fine. Go ahead and finish up whatever you're doing, and I'll.
I was just telling Ron about the meeting later on today. I had another thing that I was going to do after my appointment at the VA, and then I was going to call Ron after I got back from that, but that thing just got canceled. So.
Okay. All right. So let me take control of the screens and see if you can still hear me.
Yep. So far, so good.
How about now?
Yeah, so far, so good.
All right. Well, great.
Okay.
Okay,
all right,
guys.
you're on your way then.
All right.
All right.
I'm on my way. All right.
Yep.
So let me pop open Telegram again. Go to the Logic 247 recap. Here we are. Okay. Now, for anybody that's new, Logic 247 is our around-the-clock 24/7 Emini alert service. However, it's not just the E-minis. We also do crude, gold, silver, the euro, and now bonds by special request. Now the Logic 247 alert channel opens for business Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when the Globex markets open. Since the markets open Sunday night up through 12:15 today, we've issued a total of 74 individual alerts. Currently in the alert channel there's over 10,600, I believe it is, individual alerts. But for this week we've had 74 issued, 9 never triggered, still waiting on 4, 61 actionable alerts, of which 14 or 23% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, using market structure and a very simple 3-step process that we teach all of our passport holders. Now, I think last week we had 8% stop out. So we're a little above the average. Over 200 weeks, we've averaged 20% getting stopped out. So not unusual that we would have, after a really good week last week, this week, but it also tells you something about the market conditions, about the lack of follow-through on our windows of opportunity. So now that you got that information, let me put up the concierge trade alerts. The logic alerts come out around the clock and are based on current price action, but the concierge trade alerts, which was our original alert service, those are posted shortly after the Globex Open each evening. I can get my screen up there. Don't want to go. Let's try it again. There we are. Now the CTAs are based on historic price action. And when historic price action lines up with current price action, that's where you'll find some of your best high probability, low risk trade opportunities. Last night I was able to get the CTAs out 15 minutes after the open. You'll notice there's 2 numbers for each market. Chances are you don't trade all of these markets, but what you should do when the alerts come out, whatever markets you do trade, make note at that point in time, go to your 30-minute chart, see where price is, draw a line in the sand at 41.16 for the S&P, draw a line in the sand at 40.91 for the S&P, and from that moment in time, if price starts trending up, that's bullish, so our strategy will look for opportunities to be long the market. Price starts trending down towards 40.91, that's bearish. Our strategy will look for opportunities to be short the market. In either case, that's where you're going to use Logic 247, which is based on current price action. And more importantly, you're going to use everything you learn in the live training room each and every day to yourself find opportunities to be short or long the market. The more you understand our strategy, how to read the indicators, the importance of the weekly zones, in most cases on most days, you'll have a valid opportunity to get your goal for the day before you even get to the long trigger or to the short trigger. Okay, so if you want a screenshot, have at it. Okay, because we're going to walk through each one of the individual markets like we do every day. So let's bring this back down to my other monitor. Or try to. There we go. And just a couple headlines today before we get into the charts. Our hearts and thoughts and prayers are with the folks in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A gunman killed at least 4 people yesterday at St. Francis Medical Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa Police Department Captain Richard Muhlenberg said the suspect is also dead. Officers went to the scene in response to a report of a man carrying a rifle, and the incident turned into an active shooter situation. Tulsa police tweeted, "The attack occurred in a building used for outpatient surgery and a breast health center." Police believe the shooter, who reportedly had a rifle and a handgun, died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Muhlenberg also said multiple people were wounded at the catastrophic scene. So So our hearts and prayers are with those folks. And we can't forget Buffalo. An Erie County, New York grand jury on Wednesday indicted the self-avowed white supremacist accused of killing 10 people at a Tops Friendly Market store in Buffalo on murder and terrorism charges. The jury charged the suspect, Peyton Gendron, with first-degree domestic terrorism motivated by hate. This was most definitely a hate crime. He also faces 10 counts of first-degree murder, 10 counts of second-degree murder as a hate crime, 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder as a hate crime, and a weapons possession charge. Gendron, who allegedly scouted out the market in a predominantly black neighborhood so he could kill as many black people as possible, faces an automatic life sentence on the terrorism charge alone if convicted. Now, we are very much against any type of supremacy, white supremacist, but it strikes me that in this article, we're, reminded over and over that it was a hate crime, that it was a white supremacist killing black people. But in the first article that I read you, there was no mention made that it was a man of color who killed white people, Caucasian people, whatever the politically correct term is. In either case, we're against violence. We're against any type of supremacy where one race is better than another race or any of that garbage. Just want to make sure. The Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District police chief denied a report that he had stopped cooperating with the Texas Department of Public Safety investigation of last week's shooting at Robb Elementary School. Now, we talked about this yesterday. CNN reported Wednesday, "I've been on the phone with them every day," he told CNN. Arredondo was the on-site commander during the school shooting. He and other police officials have faced intensifying criticism for not sending 19 law enforcement officers gathered in the hall to confront the shooter in adjoining classrooms where he killed 19 students and 2 teachers in the deadliest school shooting in nearly a decade. Students inside repeatedly called 911 for help during the wait. Guns didn't do any of this violence. People did. $100 bill. Okay? You can spend that to feed hungry children or to buy ammunition, kill people, or build a dirty bomb. The expression on Ben Franklin's face never changes, no matter what you use that $100 bill for. I think there's a great lesson in that. A California task force released a report yesterday explaining the state's role in perpetuating historic discrimination against descendants of enslaved people. The task force said the state should pay reparations, and it plans to release a reparations plan in 2023. The 500-page report described harm Black Americans have endured due to discriminatory laws and systemic bias in housing, education, employment practices, and the legal system. From colonial times forward, governments at all levels adopted and enshrined white supremacy beliefs and passed laws in order to maintain slavery, a system of dehumanization and exploitation that stole the life, labor, liberty, and intellect of people of African descent. Now, are we against slavery? Very much. Now, there's a difference between the type of slavery we're talking about here and biblical slavery. In biblical times, being a slave meant you had a roof over your head and food to eat, and you were generally treated pretty good. Now, that all changed, and we know that our country went through some very turbulent times and some horrific things. You know, bathrooms for white people, bathrooms for black people, water fountains for white people, etc. And we think that was horribly wrong. However, I've never owned a slave. My white genealogical tree never owned any slaves. So should I now have to pay financially for what other generations of other people did? Because this money, these reparations are talking about, it's going to come out of somebody's pocket. Governor of California? No. President of the United States? No. That money's going to come out of your pocket, the U.S. taxpayer. So, while we're against slavery, this whole reparations thing, I have a different opinion, but I'm going to leave my opinion in my head and move on to the next headline. Federal judge said yesterday that John Hinckley Jr., some of you are old enough to remember that name, who shot then President Ronald Reagan and 3 others 41 years ago. Can you believe it's been 41 years? No longer poses any threat and will be released from all restrictions June 15th. Defense lawyers and prosecutors agreed at a Wednesday hearing that Hinckley had successfully completed a 9-month observation period that U.S. District Judge Paul Friedman required in the written release order he issued in September. Friedman said Wednesday that Hinckley had been the most scrutinized person in the entire U.S. mental health system and should be ready to get on with what's left of his life. After living under a microscope for 4 decades, I am confident Mr. Hinckley will do well in the years remaining to him. Got mixed emotions there. But hey, you do the crime. Remember what Beretta said, do the crime, got to do the time. Well, he's done his time. And so, hopefully, he truly has changed. Hopefully, he is a different person now. And hopefully, upon his release, he will commit no further crimes. We all know the story of how many people were released early due to the pandemic and other reasons, and they went right back to their old tricks and got rearrested. But if they were in LA, they didn't get prosecuted very heavily because of, well, you know that story as well. California on Wednesday began impacting or imposing new water restrictions that will affect more than 6 million people in Southern California. The unprecedented push to conserve water came in response to a call for 35% cuts in water use issued by the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. The state had its driest January, February, and March on record. More than 97% of the state is under severe, extreme, or exceptional drought conditions, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. How do you get a job like that? That's a rhetorical question. The restrictions limit outside watering to 2 days a week, once a week in many jurisdictions, and the Water District warns that if the situation doesn't improve by September, it could ban all landscape watering, which accounts for half of the urban water use in California. You know, here in Arizona, you don't see a lot of green grass in front yards. What you see is called desert landscaping or xeriscape, where instead of grass, there's pretty rocks, gravel, and plants that require little to no water to exist and flower and so forth. The Education Department announced yesterday it would cancel all remaining $5.8 billion in federal student loan debt of 560,000 people who attended for-profit schools owned or operated by Corinthian colleges. The chain closed in April 2015 under pressure from investigations and lawsuits accusing it of defrauding students. Former Corinthian students won't have to apply. The debts will be wiped clean automatically. U.S. Secretary of Education said, for far too long, Corinthian engaged in the wholesale financial exploitation of students, misleading them into taking on more and more debt to pay for promises they would never keep. So, if your debt's been forgiven, I'm happy for you. But I'm very frustrated at all the other people who maybe went to medical school or law school and then spent 20 years struggling to pay off their college debt. They had to pay. Now these folks don't have to pay. I know the world's not fair, but boy, that doesn't seem fair, does it? Meta's COO, Chief Operations Officer, Sheryl Sandberg, says she's stepping down. Now, we've been talking for days about this mass exodus from the tech industry of the upper tier echelon and talent. Sheryl announced Wednesday that she was leaving the company, which owns Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and other apps. Sandberg said she would leave in the fall after 14 years. Facebook's been around 14 years, longer. She's just been the COO for that long. Man, time flies. Although she will continue to serve on the company's board because she owns so much stock, Sandberg, 52, has long been second in command at the social media giant behind founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg. She leaves as Facebook continues to confront a backlash over misinformation spread over the platform during and after the 2016 election campaign. Have we gotten everything right? Absolutely not, according to Sandberg. Not me. She said that in a New York Times interview. Have we learned and listened and grown and invested where we need to? She said this team has and will. The United Kingdom is celebrating Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, marking 70 years on the throne. With 4 days of events starting today, the military will start things off with a parade, a Royal Air Force flyover, and a gun salute at the Tower of London. The Queen, who is now 96, has been in fragile health lately, forcing her to cancel public appearances, so her participation in the festivities is expected to be limited. The palace said she plans to make an appearance with other members of the royal family on the Buckingham Palace balcony. Queen Elizabeth also plans to join her grandson, Prince William, to lead the lighting of the Platinum Jubilee Beacon this evening from Windsor Capitol. What an icon. And what a great job she's done. Now, for many years, her position has been more of a figurehead as opposed to, well, Parliament really makes the decisions. But there's royalty in the UK. Not something we have here in the US. In fact, one of the reasons that the colonists fled England was to get away from the royal family structure. There goes my mouse jumping. And in our last headline, Johnny Depp, you know Johnny, won his defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife Amber Heard, but the jury also found the Pirates of the Caribbean actor's former attorney defamed Heard when he called her claims of domestic abuse a hoax. Depp sued Heard seeking $50 million over a Washington Post op-ed in which she described herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. The jury awarded Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages. The judge reduced the punitive damages to $350,000, the maximum allowed under Virginia law. The jury also awarded Heard $2 million in compensatory damages. CNN legal analyst Joy Jackson called the verdict a tremendous win for Depp, who said, "The jury gave me my life back." So we got a $15 million award, of which Heard gets $2 million. So at the end of the day, Johnny Depp walks away with $13 million net. The deep, deep pockets of Hollywood. Okay, so that's the headlines. And with that, we'll go to the charts. And we'll start out with a daily chart of the S&P 500 E-mini futures, as we do each and every day. Why? Because most of our traders, not all, but most, trade the S&P 500. Whatever market you trade, I encourage you to always look at the daily chart. Don't stare at it all day, but look at it before you start your trading session so that you can understand what the big money, the deep pockets, the institutions, the hedge funds, the Goldman Sachs of the world, what are they doing? What are they seeing? What are they thinking? Because they look at daily charts, weekly charts, and monthly charts the way you and I look at 30-minute charts, 5-minute charts, tick charts, and range charts. So we had a high put in on the daily back on March 29th, and then we got a low on May 20th, and then we got above red and falling, which became blue and climbing. Then we got above the daily BBC. That just stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses below the green line, we anticipate lower prices, bearish. When price gets above the green line, we're bullish. We anticipate higher prices. Okay, so we hit the daily BBC right here. We got above it, but we failed to close above it. And then this session opened May 27th, took us up. We closed on the high of the day. That's as bullish a signal as you can get when you close on the high, or as bearish when you close on the low of the day. The next session opened May 30th, where we had a slight movement to the upside, and then we got a pull back to the daily BBC. We've got blue and climbing, which is bullish, just as red and falling is bearish. And I drew a little trend line across these tops. Now the bulls, the institutional buyers, have made a strong stand. Okay? In an uptrend, we expect pullbacks. And the pullback to the BBC holds more often than it doesn't on 30-minute charts and above. And here's a perfect example. Okay? We spiked on the open last night. We spiked a little below the BBC and blue and climbing. But the market's quickly recovered, and now we're trading just off the high of the day and right at that little trend line. So how we close today will of course be very important, as it is every day. If we can close above that trend line, then we set our sights on this swing high, the 50% reverse fib, and the 62% reverse fib. We've got this trend line in here where I have connected a long time ago, that high to that high. So between the 50% reverse fib and the 62% reverse fib, that trend line could provide some resistance. It's based on us actually getting there. Because again, we've got to overcome the high of yesterday, the day before, and the day before that. Then the 50% reverse fib, and this trend line. If price gets back above the 62% reverse fib, I will take down the reverse fibs, and I will put on regular fibs. In a downtrend, you draw from the high to the low. In an uptrend, you draw from the low to the high. But before I switch things up, I want to make sure that we are in a confirmed uptrend. Now, for 2 years or more, that's all we had was regular fibs, because we were in one of the longest bull runs in market history, if not the longest. Let me enjoy some coffee beverage. If you haven't tried coffee, put a pep in your step. Just don't overdo it. And don't pay $9 a cup. Come on. Get you a nice Keurig machine like we have, which isn't that expensive. And then you buy your coffee in bulk, and you put the little cup inside, and it's like magic. And it saves the drive, especially at today's. I filled up my wife's Kia again yesterday. I know you get tired of hearing this. I filled up her Kia again yesterday. This time it was $59.80 for a Kia Soul, which you know doesn't have much of a gas tank. So, and we've already talked about it, but they're recalibrating the gas pumps so that they can handle an extra digit. Am I saying that the price of gas could go to $10, $11, $12? There may come a day when we're telling our children, son, when I was a young man, gas was only $10 a gallon. Last time I was in London, they were already paying like $10 a liter, I think it was. Or maybe it was a gallon, and I did the calculation. Anyway, it was very expensive compared to what we were paying here in the U.S. at the same time. And of course, during President Trump's presidency, we saw some incredibly low gas prices. Historically, well, not historically low, but below $2. So, here we are. Buyers have by far not given up. Now, I wrote this in the discussion group today. Whether you're a member or on the trial, make sure you're connected to the Telegram discussion group, because that's going to really help guide you and help you determine if our path is the right path for you. Throughout the day, I copy a lot of stuff out of the members only discussion group, and I forward it over to the trial discussion group. It's just snippets of conversation between our traders about what they've done, what they're seeing. They post their charts, they post their trades, and so I share some of that with those of you who are on the trial. If you're on the trial, you can always ask questions in the trial discussion group, and then once you become a member, a passport holder, you'll have access to the members only discussion group. And we have a lot of Telegram channels. We even have one called CFRN Breeze. It's where we go to shoot the breeze about things other than trading. And we've got the weekly workshop channel. We've got the alert channel. We got the CTA channel. We even have a channel which is a tribute to Mark Douglas, my dearly departed friend and author of one of the greatest trading books ever written, Trading in the Zone. It has no indicators, it has no oscillators. It's all about the psychology of trading. Now, most traders fail because they don't have a teacher, and then even if they have a teacher, the noise between their ears destroys them. And so, in a great book, Mark walks you through the psychology of trading. There's, again, no indicators, no oscillators. And when you become a passport holder, we'll make sure that you get a free audiobook, a legal copy, so that Mark's widow still gets her royalty. Okay, let's jump into the 30-minute charts. This vertical line separates today, Thursday, from yesterday, Wednesday. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support. We got it. When price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance until proven otherwise. We got it. Price drop back to the zone. We expected support, and we got it. And then price rallied up to the zone where we expected resistance, and we got it. And then price came back down to the zone where we expected support, and we got it. I want you to think about this, okay? Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. Whether we're talking futures, on a 1-minute chart, a 30-minute chart, a daily chart, a weekly chart, the S&P, the Dow, or maybe we're talking individual stocks. Maybe we're talking your favorite crypto pair, or forex pair, or even options. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames. From support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over, again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. It's been there since the inception of the markets, and it will remain there until the markets cease to exist. Very important that you get a hold of that concept. Now, our indicators, since we know price is going to go from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, our indicators serve as dynamic support and resistance. The weekly trading zones are fixed support and resistance. The zones are typically published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern since December 14th of 2009. So we have well over a decade of history on how price behaves. Around the weekly zones. Okay. Now we know that eventually price is going to break through a zone. Now, only 3 things happen at a weekly zone. The most common thing is consolidation. Second most common, now we're talking 75-80% of the time. Here, we're talking maybe 20% of the time, rejection. See how when the 30-minute candle closed here on each one of these candles, the only thing left touching the zone was the wick. Price got rejected. Okay? So only three things happen. Consolidation most likely, rejection second most likely, and then the third and least likely, about 10% of the time, is what we call the slice. As you can see here, this was a big green 30-minute candle, right up to where? Come on, he's not going to do this again, is he? Bearish cross. Whenever you have a bearish cross that leads to an extended move, the first time price revisits that area, it's most likely going to be resistance. Same is true of a bullish cross, just going in the other direction. Now, we got two things going on here. Number one, we had the slice, where we had a big green candle all the way up to where our traders knew to expect resistance. When price slices through a zone like it's not even there, what typically happens is when that move runs out of steam or runs into an obstacle, it will retrace back to the zone it sliced through, and then it will continue in the direction of the slice. Now, at this high, we should anticipate resistance, and at this high, we should anticipate some resistance. We're currently printing a red 30-minute candle. Could we pull all the way back to the zone? We could. Could we dip below the trigger again? Because once an alert triggers, there's a greater probability of it triggering multiple times and not triggering multiple times. The only issue is if we were to dip right here, if the bottom just fell out and we got back below the trigger, we would also be below the BBC, the green line. On our 30-minute roadmaps, we only look for long positions above the BBC, and we only look for short positions below the BBC. All right, so the market opened here last night, and the short trigger was 40.91. Okay, and so this first drop took us to 40.89.75, and we got back above, and we dropped again to 40.89, which is 2 points. Then we got back above the trigger, and we dropped again right to the target. On every short alert, the final trade to target is the zone below. On every long alert, the final trade to target is the zone above. Logic alerts have multiple targets in most cases, but with the CTA, you got the published entry, the published target. Okay, and so right here is 30 minutes before the London Open. Here's the London Open. We run up to the trigger, we get rejected, just like we get rejected at weekly trading zones. Okay. Price then pulled back to the BBC. The pullback holds more often than it doesn't. It held here. And it held here. And it held here. And we know eventually it won't hold. Okay. That's when we shift gears from looking for short trades to long trades. And once this candle closed here and took out that high, our traders who understand the methodology and strategy would have traded something like 41.09 up to 41.11 if they were just looking to get their goal for the day. But from 41.09 we ran all the way to the trigger at 41.16. That's 7 points. Most new traders are just looking for a couple points a day out of the S&P. Okay, so after the pullback, which held, we ran up from 41.16 to 41.20.75. So it was 4 3/4 points. It's over $200 per contract traded. And then price got back below the trigger, triggered again. This time it ran up to 41.21.75. That's 5 points at $50 a point, $250 per contract traded. And then price got back below the trigger, triggered again, and ran right to the target. Actually, it came 2 ticks shy. The zone is 41.25/26. The high was 24.50. So what we had was 8.5 points. 8 points at basically a $450 per contract move. And then price came back down below the BBC, triggered 40.91. The zone is 85/86. So from 91 to 86, $250 per contract traded. And we got back above the trigger, dropped again, right to the target. And then we headed back up, triggered 41.16, put in a high at 41.22, 6 points, back below the trigger, up to that resistance that we anticipated. Now the target's 25, so this is just gravy on top of the move to the target. Okay. So on just the S&P, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tradable triggers. Just on the CTAs. Don't forget, you've also got the logic alerts, which I already gave you a recap of. There was a question this morning in the discussion group. I see that one of the alerts is already triggered. Does that mean it's done with? Absolutely not. In most cases, whether it's logic or CTA, once an alert triggers, there's a greater probability that it's going to trigger multiple times than not trigger multiple times. And right here you've got just a picture-perfect example of that principle at work. Okay? Okay, so let's go to the Dow. The Dow, we never got a trigger on the long side yet. But the session is not over. We're above the BBC. Could we get a trigger? Absolutely. All things are possible with God and trading. Okay. Remember, the vertical line separates today, Thursday, from yesterday, Wednesday. All right. So we get a little trigger here. 32,700 is the trigger, and we drop to, it takes 20 points at $5 a point to give you $100 per contract traded. Here we dropped 18 points, so we were just 2 points shy of reaching that $100 per contract per day goal that many of our traders use. Okay? So we've never triggered on the long side yet. Once we do trigger, there's potential resistance right overhead, but there's room to get 40 points before we hit this bearish cross. This bearish cross, first time up, should give us resistance. And that crosses at roughly 70. And so from 30 to 70, that's 40 points at $5 a point, $200 per contract traded. And then if that's what happens and we find resistance there, chances are we'll pull back, get below the trigger, make another run. Okay? If that unfolds, then up here we would expect resistance first time up at this previous swing high. Okay? Once we get above that swing high, then we have a big old window of opportunity up here. Okay? And so on this short trigger, we've already covered that one. On this one, we dropped from 32,700 to 32,576. That's about 125 points at $5 a point, $500 per contract traded. Then we got back above the trigger, dropped again, and we put in a low at 32,490. So that's 200 points at $5 a point. That's $1,000 per contract traded. And now we're consolidating the most common thing at the zone. See how we consolidated here? Okay. That's the most common thing. We're consolidating right now. And when we're consolidating at a zone, the market's coiling up. It's building up pressure. Okay? We're either going to make a mad break to the upside or to the downside. The fact that we're above the BBC and the fact that we have blue and climbing in the picture versus red and falling, the greatest probability is that the break would be to the upside. Remember, the zone itself is 32,985 / 32,990. Okay? All right. Russell. Go, Russell. Okay, the long trigger was 1858. The short trigger was 1845. Now price just barely dribbled over the line. Not even a full point. The low was 1844.4. Again, this is why you use your smaller time frame, whichever you've selected. It could be a 5-minute, could be a 4-tick range, could be an 8-tick range, could be a 610 tick, could be a 1597 tick. Okay, whatever smaller time frame, the 30 minutes your roadmap, and then you use a smaller time frame to time your entries, set your stop loss. That's using market structure, which I'll teach you when you become a passport holder. Worst case scenario is you got stopped out. Getting stopped out is as much a part of trading as breathing is a part of life. I've met so many traders over the course of the last almost 20 years who have spent years and tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars, trying to find a way to not get stopped out. I know we talked about this yesterday. You get stopped out, just roll with it. Okay? Market's not out to get you. Your office isn't bugged. It just happens. Okay? And there's no machine, no man, no indicator, oscillator, or algorithm that can keep you from getting stopped out consistently. Because that would defy the laws of science, physics, and God. Think about all the traders in the world at any given time trading the Russell market, for an example. Okay? For any kind of indicator, oscillator, or algorithm to do what you want it to do, it would have to be able to run out and query the mind of every trader, from institutional to retail, right? Come back, compute the results, and then display them. And the amount of time it takes that to happen, one of the institutional traders could change their mind and either pull their bid, pull their ask, or just exit their trade. And when you have institutions who trade in size, hundreds of contracts at a time, that's what moves the market. So I hope you see why it's impossible. As much as, the little boy inside of us, or the little girl, loves magic, and we all want to find that magical thing, that holy grail. It doesn't exist. It can't exist, for the reason I just explained. So stop wasting time and treasure looking for something that cannot exist. I'm not saying it does not exist, I'm saying it can not exist. Instead, learn how to read the market, understand how to read price. Don't try to outsmart the market, don't try to beat the market. Just make sure you understand what the market's trying to do, and then do the same thing long enough to get your goal for the day. Trading's not easy, but it can be. That simple. So, after this, then we get above the BBC, we trigger on the long side, the trigger's 1858, and it takes us up to almost 1861. So, it's 2.8 points. At 3 points, it would be $150 per contract traded, but it's not quite 3 points. Needed 2 more ticks. And then price gets back below the trigger, triggers again. This time we go to 62.8. So that's 4.8 points. At 5 points, it would be $250 per contract traded. At 4 points, it's $200 per contract traded. And then price gets back below the trigger, triggers again, takes us up to 1863. $250 plus per contract traded. Then we pull back to the trigger one more time. The low is 1857.90. So we went 1 tick below the trigger. That's all it takes. And there's another trigger. It took us up to almost 1865, which would be $350 per contract traded. Then price gets back below the trigger. This time you got red and falling overhead, which represents resistance, and so you would probably want to avoid that trigger. Okay? Now, once price gets above the BBC, and once price gets above this swing high, then you got a nice little window of opportunity right here, which you could have traded once, twice. And if you have learned the things we try to teach you, you would have either just taken your goal for the day, you had multiple choices, chances, but if you're swinging for the fences, you might still be long. Okay? If you're still long, what do you need to watch out for? When you teach your children to cross the street, you tell them to look both ways first. With trading, you only have to look left. Okay? And so this swing high right here correlates with this resistance we're running into right here. If we clear that area, if we get above that high, then we go to this potential resistance and this potential resistance, and then we have a nice window of opportunity all the way up to this area right here. Okay. Obviously, as you become a passport holder and we spend time in one-on-one mentoring sessions, whether you're spending time with Michael or with me, we're going to help you better understand how to read the chart like a newspaper, like a mystery novel. The chart tells you what the market is trying to do. Now, does the market always accomplish what it's trying to do? Not always. But at the end of the day, the market is always right. So, again, we don't want to outsmart the market. We don't want to beat the market. We just want to understand what the market's trying to do. And then we want to do the same thing. Just ride the coattails long enough to get your goal for the day. Okay. NQ is the last of the indices. Now remember, these alerts came out 15 minutes after the open last night. I always try to get them out as early as I can. Sometimes life doesn't allow me to get them out as early as I want to. But last night was pretty good. Okay. Here's the open. Right at the opening candle is this one. Right below the weekly trading zone. The trigger was 12,516. And we dropped to 12,494. So that would be 16 and 6 is 22 points at $20 a point, $440 per contract traded. And we get back above the BBC, and why do we stop here? Look left. You can almost always answer that question by looking left. Okay. So we come back down, trigger again, and we drop from 516 to 488. That's 12, and 16 is 38 times 2. Should be able to do that in my head, right? 38. 76 points times $20 a point. $1,520 per contract traded. Right here. Then we get above the VBC, we trigger along. And from 675, we go up to 691. 16 points, $20 a point, $320 per contract traded. Then we get back below the trigger, we trigger again. Oops. We run into resistance. Okay. But from 675 to 792, which I can't do in my head, 792 minus 675, it's 117 points, $20 a point. It's $2,340 per contract traded. This one trade right here pays for half of your passport. You're able to hire our team to teach you, train you, serve you, support you for life. And this one trade pays for half the cost of admission. Passport's $5,000, $49.97 to be exact. But you're not just joining a group or a club or some training room or some trade calling room. You're hiring a team of people who have dedicated their lives to the trading profession. You're hiring me, you're hiring Mike, you're hiring Valerie, you're hiring Bert. And you get to hang out with all of our other traders in the discussion group and learn from them as well. Many self-proclaimed gurus will charge you that much for 1 hour of their time. I don't mean to devalue what we offer. I just want to make sure you understand that because some guy wants to charge you $5,000 to spend an hour with you, doesn't make him the Holy Grail. Okay? I'm not saying you won't learn something. I'm sure you will. But when you have questions, a day later, a week later, who are you going to call? Might as well call Ghostbusters, because you can't call him unless you're ready to cut another check. With our passport, we don't have any upsells. There's no new shiny object to buy every other week. Once you hire us, it's for life. We refer to it as the CFRN family. And that's how we treat one another, like family. Except at Thanksgiving dinner, we don't fight and pull each other's hair out, because we all have our own Thanksgiving dinner at our own homes where we're doing all that stuff. I am proud to say that I am a part of the greatest family of traders that I have encountered in 20 years. And the fact that God gave me the keys is just incredibly humbling. Okay? So, let's move on. We still got to go to crude oil. And we had what's called two-sided action. That's a term from my old friend Mike Reed. He used to be a guest host on the show. And what an incredible guy he was. He got drafted out of high school to pitch for, I believe it was the Mariners. And so he and his friends, his high school friends, they went out to celebrate. I mean, this kind of thing's huge. And they went diving. And he broke his back in a diving accident. He spent the remainder of his life confined to a chair. But he didn't want anybody's pity. He didn't want to live off the government. He wanted to work for a living. If he ever messaged you, for those of you that have been around for a while, if you ever read anything that he wrote, did you know that he did it by holding a stylus in his mouth and pecking at the keyboard? I have so much respect for him. He never gave up. His pain got so great over so many years, God graciously called him home a few years ago. He has a book too called Read the Greed, Take the Money. I think it's out of print. I don't know if you could even get a copy if you wanted to, maybe on eBay. I'll certainly never sell my copy. But I might reach out to his wife. And maybe there is some inventory sitting in the basement somewhere. And if there is, I'll let you know. Now, where Mark Douglas's book, Trading in the Zone, addressed the psychology of trading, Mike Reed's book, Read the Greed, Take the Money, it actually addressed indicators and oscillators and trade setups, etc. Okay? And those really are the only two trading books that I recommend. Alright. Crude oil. This was the opening candle. the trigger was 114.10. Okay, now this candle dropped to 114.03. And then the high of this candle was 114.20. Okay, so you would have not got stopped out. So this is all one smooth move right to the target. And on a short, the target is always the zone below. 113.40/45. So $650 per contract traded. And I did it in my head, so feel free to use your calculator. Then we consolidated at this zone and we dropped to the zone below where the market found support on a Thursday. The zones go out Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern, since December 14th of 2009. This week, because there's a Monday holiday, we don't publish the zones until Tuesday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. But just look at what's happened over the week. We drop to a zone, we find support. We rally to a zone, we find resistance. We break through that zone, we find more resistance. We pull back to the zone, we find support. We rally to the zone, resistance. We pull back to the zone, support. Resistance. Remember I told you, no matter what market, no matter what time frame, price is always moving from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. Okay? Now this trigger here, not valid because we're above the BBC. And on the 30-minute roadmap, we only go long above the BBC. We only go short when price is below the BBC. And as price came off of this zone, it pulled back to the BBC. I'm sure I've mentioned already today the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. Now, this was resistance times 2. When price pulls up to a zone, we expect resistance. When price pulls up to the BBC, we expect resistance. So resistance times 2. And when the market finds resistance, it's going to turn around and go look for support, which it found off this low, which sent it back to resistance, which sent it back to support. We overshot the zone, quickly recovered, made a run up, and from 116.30, $220 per contract traded, back below the zone. And from 116.30 we go right to the target. That's $650 per contract traded. And every one of our members got all of these trades delivered to them last night, 15 minutes after the market opened. I think it was actually 10. And by the way, everything that we do, everything that we show you, once the trade's complete, once the week's complete, it all falls into the public domain. Which means anybody who wants to take a free trial and go look at everything we've done for the last few years, you can do that. You don't even have to take the free trial to go to youtube.com/CFRN. There's over 2,000 daily live broadcasts archived, just what I'm doing now. Over 2,000 daily live shows, just like this, archived for you at youtube.com/CFRN. And the reason I encourage you, if you're new, to take that journey is I want you to see not just what we did today, but what we did 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, as far back as you want to go. We've changed nothing. If it's not broke, you better leave it alone. I have seen people with great definable edges. And that's what you need to become consistently profitable as a trader, is you need a definable edge. I've seen people with great definable edges Who tried to put an edge on the edge? And then an edge on that edge. And then an edge on that edge. And pretty soon, what do they got? They got no edge at all. Find something that will help you consistently reach your goal on a daily basis and stay with that. Okay? Now, I know some organizations, some groups, some say, oh, well, we're in this kind of season, or the markets are trending this way or that way, so we're going to use this strategy or this indicator or the... We're plain Jane. We just do the same thing every day. Because we know what the others won't tell you. The price behaves the same across every market and every time frame. All our indicators do and our weekly trading zones do is make it obvious. Okay? So there was no trigger, of course, on the short side, triggered on the long side, 1855. It's 80 bucks. Then we get back below the trigger. And this time we make it up 130 bucks. Then we get back below the trigger and we hit the target at 58. That's $300 per contract traded. Gold pays $100 per point from 55, 56, 57, 58. That's $300 per contract traded. And then almost after consolidating, almost like a compulsive obsessive thing, it reaches down to get below the trigger one more time. It takes you right back to the target, into the next zone, and then to the next zone, where we've now been consolidating for hours. Here's silver. No trigger on the short side, trigger on the long side. $22.02 was the trigger. And we get rejected a couple times, then we finally get above it, and that takes us right to the target at $22.18. That's 16 points. That's $800 per contract traded. And then the euro. No trigger on the short side. Okay, now, when the euro moves 10 ticks, in other words, from 69.10 to 7,010, right there. That's $125 per contract traded. So we had a trigger, we had another trigger, we had another trigger, we had another trigger. Did we hit the target? Yes, we did. Did price then continue on to the next zone? Yes, it did. And why is it stalled out? Look at this swing high, look at the horizontal line on my cursor. There's your reason. Just look left. Okay, and then on the euro, hang on, let me make this a euro chart. And let me make it a 30-minute chart. on the euro last night, the CTAs were, now let me mark where the market opened. Okay, that candle right there. Okay, so this was the opening candle. The long CTA was 139.10, which we didn't hit here. We got one tick above that long CTA, and then the market had other ideas. The short trigger for the CTA is 138, which we haven't gotten to yet. So, whole lot of nothing going on for the CTAs, but there were also some logic alerts for the bonds. And those that are following the bonds know exactly what they were. So let me pull this back down. We've made our way through all the markets, which brings us back to the daily chart of the S&P, the bellwether. Whatever the S&P ends up doing, the other markets are eventually going to follow along. Okay? And so, we made our pullback to the BBC. The pullback held. Why? It holds more often than it doesn't. But we really need to take out yesterday's high, previous day's high, and the previous day's high. That's going to put us at the 50% reverse fib. So just as this is a very important support area, that's a really important resistance area. And you got that trend line, and you got the 62% reverse fib. And the day that we close and open above the 62% reverse fib, I will delete the reverse fibs, and I will put regular fibs on, and I will draw from the low to whatever the current high is at the time. So, I mean, we're at the high of the session. Things look very bullish, but you got to understand that this high, and this high are obstacles. I think they, and this is just my thought, it's not a forecast, it's an observation. The strength the bulls have shown today, I feel somewhat confident that they can overcome these obstacles. Maybe they aren't able to overcome them all today. Maybe we have to wait into tomorrow, okay, or tonight. So we're in the Thursday session. This is the Thursday candle. This candle will stop moving at 5 p.m. Eastern. At 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll get a new candle, the Friday candle. The question then will be, does the new Friday candle start printing green or red? Now, if we were to pull up here and this obstacle keeps us from moving higher, a pullback, another pullback to the BBC would certainly not be the end of the world for the longs, because in an uptrend, pullbacks happen. In a downtrend, pullbacks happen. But the pullbacks hold more often than they don't, until they eventually don't. And so now we're seeing see how in the downtrend. All these pullbacks held, okay, until this one. Now we've got a pullback, whereas before the pullback was expected to be resistance, now we expect it to be support. Trading's not easy. It can be that simple. If you want to hire us, go to eminifuturestrading.com. Get your passport and you will receive an email from Valerie that's very important. Save that email somewhere because it's going to have not only your invitation to tonight's members only workshop, it's going to have all the Telegram links. It's going to explain how you set up your demo accounts, your indicators, just everything. Okay? So many times I'm in a mentoring session with someone and they go, oh, I didn't know about that, or I didn't get that. And being a polite gentleman, I always say, oh, I'm sorry. But I know how hard Valerie works, and I know how diligent she is to send that information out. But if you got an email with the stuff you need and you can't find it, you lost it, whatever, don't be afraid to speak up and go, hey, I can't find my link to so-and-so. I can't find the email that tells me where to do this or that. Speak up so we can help you, okay? That's really important. And that, my friends, brings us to our good word for the day. And today, we're talking about how God changes us. Part 2. Proverbs 20:30. Beatings purge the inmost being. Another way God changes us is through circumstances. Problems, pressures, sorrows, hardships, and stress always get our attention. C.S. Lewis said, pain insists on being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, but shouts to us in our pain. The J.B. Phillips translation of Romans 8:28 and 29 reads like this. To those who love God, who are called according to his plan, everything that happens fits into a pattern for good. God chose them to bear the family likeness of his Son. Nothing can come into your life without your Heavenly Father's permission. It must be Father filtered. It's interesting how God uses circumstances in that their source makes no difference to him. We often bring problems on ourselves. Sometimes they're caused by other people. Other times the enemy causes things to happen to us. But the source of the circumstances is irrelevant. God says, I will make it fit into my plan for your life, to make you like Jesus Christ. That means there is no circumstance from which we can't learn if we maintain the right attitude. Why did Solomon say, blows and wounds scrub away evil, and beatings purge the inmost being? Because we change only when our fear of change is surpassed by our pain. If you want to become more like Jesus, think about this. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. That's Hebrews 5:8. If God used the challenges, conflicts, and circumstances of life to prepare his son for his destiny, won't he do the same in our lives? So instead of trying to escape your circumstances, learn from them and grow stronger. That's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.